Hey, welcome. I am going to share my slides with you. So welcome back to day 3 now of StoryMagic. If you're not muted, can you mute yourself, please? I can hear some background noise. Thank you. Okay, so a reminder of what we're here for. We're here to be discovering your why story, your why you story, and your why now story, so that you can be, as they say in the industry, overcoming objections before people even get into a sales conversion event with you. And on a practical level, what we're going to be writing together, creating together, is the story for your About Me page, and also for your brilliant bio, so that you get to be showing up on stages and be introduced by the person who is interviewing you in a way that has the audience already excited to hear what you have to say before you even open your mouth. And underneath that, we are on a journey of supporting you to get clearer on your purpose and also who you're speaking to. So vital in order to be making sure that you are bringing in the right kinds of people to your work, and also where to share your story and your voice to grow your purpose-led business. So that's the journey we're on. And all of this comes underneath my overarching philosophy and approach to marketing, which in many ways is an antidote to some of the more traditional marketing teachings out there. For example, pain point marketing, where we are taught to find the pain and then prod it and then keep prodding it and keep prodding it until the person is desperate to get out of it, and then, oh, here we are as a magical pill solution. Now, what I'm not saying is don't ever mention pain. In fact, it is important. It is important to mention pain, and if you don't mention it, you do perhaps appear as if you've got your head a little bit in the clouds, your feet not on the ground, not in the earth, and actually your clients or your potential clients miss the opportunity to feel seen, met, known, understood, got by you, right? To feel the power and the love of your empathy for them. And that's one of the reasons why we've given as a bonus to this course my training in empathic marketing. And that is various ways to touch on the pain of your clients without prodding a bruise, which is just horrible and cruel, but instead by being like a really good masseuse who knows how to get in there into just the right spot to help soothe and alleviate that pain. So it's also an antidote to this type of marketing where we're taught to manufacture authority, which is a very old school, old paradigm, hierarchical way of trying to set ourselves up as above someone else, knowing magical secrets that they can't possibly know until they come and pay us lots of money. So this is a different way to, instead of manufacturing authority, reveal the expert you already are. So instead of it being about manufacturing, it's about revealing. Because sometimes when we are sensitive, when we are empathic, we see these ways that we're being taught to market. So for example, we're told to manufacture authority, and something in us goes, ugh, no, can't do that. And then we don't do anything. And so we need antidotes, we need other ways. We need to make sure that we're not, by choosing not to manufacture authority, we're not also playing the sort of, girl next door or boy next door role and actually hiding just how much we do know, just how much we do have to share, just how much natural authority we actually do have. So instead, this is a way inside of StoryMagic where you are learning to market and lead instead of by pushing the pain points with vision and possibility. And knowing that what happens when you do that is you attract clients who are ready to do the deep work that is, we know, required to actually make change in their lives. What I've seen again and again now from being inside of so many businesses is that when we overload on the pain point marketing, what happens is we can attract people who are stuck in victim mode, don't want to do the work, want us to do it for them, want us to be this magical pill solution. And that's a really tricky dynamic to be in with your clients. So when you swap pain point marketing out for leading with vision and possibility, you attract people who want to go where you're going and are willing to do the work to get there. And instead of positioning by problem with yourself as this magical pill solution, we're going to be making sure that you're positioning yourself by your unique perspective. Your unique perspective on the world, on the problem, on what it takes to move through the problem as a result of your lived experience, also known as stories. And how your traveling of those moments, those stories, and the lessons learned and gained from them means you are the obvious guide to be guiding people who are currently in the lows, in the valleys of that journey, because you can be there saying to them, this is what's possible. This is where we're going. And I know what it's like where you are. I get it. I've been there. Let me tell you about that. So that's the journey that we're on, so that your clients, your potential clients, can really trust you and trust that you get them and you know what it's like to be where they are. And so far, we have met your amazing wild voices. We have visioned our collective future, and that was so heart strengthening for me, and I hope it was for you too. And I don't think it's a coincidence that so many of us shared elements of the vision of our world in 7 generations time. And I truly believe that we were shown what we were shown for. That it's not a mistake that this group has gathered together at this time and is seeing this future as possible. And you have found the essential oil of your vision, so that essentialized version of the vision that you dream of what you're doing it all for. And so yesterday I asked you to draw out on one side of a piece of paper the essence of your vision, and on the other side the opposite, and then to let your intuition draw you a wiggly line with peaks and valleys. And here's a surprise. We have included in the slide deck for today the amazing drawing from Erica Bowen. I love this, the bottle, the peace elixir, such a great example of bringing it through into image form so that you can see, understand, and get it at an even more clear level. So Erica's essence of her vision, if she was handing someone a little medicine bottle, a little essential oil, would be the peace elixir. And then on the other side, depicted very emotionally, is turmoil. So really, really clear and great example of what we are going for here. And what we're going to start to do now, today, is talk about language. Okay, so I asked you to start writing out the moments, 3 to 5 of the moments, and for it to be a combination, some high, some low, and to let yourself do it really badly, right? That was step 1, just do it badly, write like a 5-year-old, this happened and this happened and then this happened. We've all been told stories like that by children, right? And that at this point is exactly what we're going for. And now we're going to start learning how to engage an audience, whether it is from the stage or the page, through sensory and emotive language. And the reason this is important is because we experience the world, we experienced those moments through the senses and through the emotions, right? We had experiences, we felt things, both on a sensory level and on an emotional level. And so, in order to really powerfully communicate that story, we want to go back to that origin experience, to how it actually felt in our body, and communicate that. And this is how you get those moments. I don't know if you've ever been at the theatre or maybe at a speaker event where there was a particularly good speaker and you could hear a pin drop, right? Or you're reading a book and you get that page turning event and you want to know that page turning experience and you want to know what happened. You have to turn the page. This is how. By bringing the audience into the world of your story so that they are there with you. When you're present in the senses and the emotions, they are present with you. They're feeling it. They're experiencing it. Most people, when telling stories, I'm just going to be very blunt here, are boring. Most people are boring. However, most people are actually fascinating, right? Humans are fascinating. It's just that most humans haven't learned how to package and present the things about them, the experiences that they've had, in a way that is fascinating. So this is going to make sure that you are not boring, that you are one of the fascinating ones. So let's talk about the senses. So we have the classic 5 that we're going to go into: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory and gustatory, right? VACOG. And then we also have, in this course, and for this wonderful magical group of people, the 6th sense. And we're going to talk about how to use that in story. And then when we're talking about senses and we're talking about learning and we're talking about teaching, auditory digital is also an important one just to mention. This is that internal processing sense. Right? For some people, this is how they experience the world, in that kind of, oh, I've got to think about it, I need to figure it out, I need to grapple with it, right? You hear it in their language. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone in your life. If people are using that kind of languaging, you can make an educated guess that their primary sense, their primary way of experiencing the world is auditory digital. However, in the world of storytelling, it's less important, and I actually recommend we deliberately don't use it, because it is, by definition, a very heady one, and we want our audience and ourselves in the body. But it's important to know about when we're talking about education, learning, teaching, and you might use it elsewhere in your classes and your courses, but pretty much avoid it for storytelling. So, when we're talking about the sense of sight, the visual sense, seeing, we can obviously use words that are describing that. Right? So I saw, I visualized, I imagined. Or we can use adjectives which utilize the sense of sight. So the bright, glowing sun. Right? Not describing, not using the words I saw, but going straight to using adjectives to describe visually what you saw. My yellow bicycle, right? Colours are a great one to bring in, to bring the world from black and white into vivid colour. The vibrant pink of her jumper caught my eye. So you can also literally use the body part, which is giving us access to that sense. He looked familiar, right? So these are various ways, 5 of many, that you can use to start bringing the sense of sight into your stories. So instead of it being a bicycle, it's a yellow bicycle. Suddenly you can see the bicycle more clearly. And then sense of smell, auditory or hearing. So some more examples here. The footsteps were slow. So this is an assumptive example, because if you're saying the footsteps, you're assuming the sense of sound, right? We don't see footsteps, we don't feel footsteps in general, we hear them. So this is an assumptive use of senses. Say the footsteps were slow. And then here is another example of just, using the sense, like I saw, I heard, yeah? I could hear them echo. The clicking of her heels uneven with every step. Suddenly I became aware of a strange sound behind me. Do we want to know what happened? Right? Hardly anything has happened, but suspense has been built simply through the use of sound. And then we get to the sense of feeling, kinesthetic. My mouth was dry. I felt cold. A hand on my shoulder. So a little note here on context. Imagine you've set up a scene and it's a scary one, and then suddenly there's a hand on the shoulder. That's going to have one effect on our audience. If you set up a very different scene and it's cozy and it's warm, and maybe the person is waiting for their loved one to arrive and then they feel a hand on their shoulder, whole other experience. With kinesthetic, we can also talk about, so there's temperature here, we can also talk about weight, right? Light, heavy, unexpectedly heavy. And warmth spread up my arms from my mug of tea. So again, going into the body, it spread up my arms, right? Describing how it felt. And then olfactory. So sense of smell, using your nose. I caught the balm of a familiar perfume. I could smell the fresh cut grass. Oddly masked by the stench of cigarettes. And then just let's note here for a moment how an entire sentence and the feeling of a sentence and the transmission of a sentence can change when we change one word. So let's say we swap balm and stench out, right? I caught the stench of a familiar perfume. Very different story we've just set up, right? I caught the balm of a familiar perfume. This is someone they loved. This is someone maybe they still love. Something lovely is about to happen. I caught the stench of a familiar perfume. There's a clue in there that this is not a friend. This is a foe. This is not a meeting that this person wanted, right? With one word change. And then let's see what happens if we swap it the other way around. So oddly masked by the balm of cigarettes. Interesting. For me, I would say that changes the character. That changes the voice of the person I'm listening to, right? Oddly masked by the stench of cigarettes is a different voice to the person who says, oddly masked by the balm of cigarettes. Conjures something different inside. So notice there the power of swapping out one word. And then gustatory, sense of taste. I could taste the bitterness in the back of my throat. I swallowed down my panic, right? Using the sort of the physicality of the part of the body. The sweet and succulent jam dripping from the donut. And then the sixth sense. Okay, so the sixth sense can be used for each of the senses. So we've got down the side here VACOG, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. And then when we move into the sixth sense of this sense, it becomes a clair. So we get clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairalience, and clairgustance. I live by these senses. I probably have these senses more strongly than the physical ones in some ways. And when we use them in storytelling, it's a way of adding in a layer of intrigue, a layer of mystery, a layer of depth, a layer of knowing in that way where we can't always explain how we know, but we know we do. And it communicates to our clients if this is appropriate for you. If it's not, obviously don't use it, because there will be some people who hear this kind of language and go, what are you talking about? And if they are your clients, right, if your ideal clients are very heady or are extremely practical, who would think that the idea of a sixth sense is ridiculous and should be, relegated to weird movies, then don't use this language. But if you know that your clients are actually much more aware, tuned in, and lovers of the sixth sense, then do use the sixth sense and use it as you would the others, right? So not as like something really weird that you're talking about, because that dismisses the value of it. Use it as you would talk about the solidity of a table. If it's real for you, it's real for you. So, for example, with clairvoyance, we might say, I recognized this place. I had been here before. For clairaudience, I heard a disembodied voice say, turn around. For clairsentience, right, so the sixth sense version of being able to, of feeling, the suspense was tangible. And this is a really good example, actually, because some people who don't have this ability, so finely tuned, might walk into a room and not notice anything. And another person with a strong clairsentience might walk in and go, whoa, what just happened here? And for them, the suspense was tangible. And for the other person, it wasn't even on their radar. So it becomes tangible for you. Olfactory, I smelt danger. And clairgustance, as an example, I could taste my fear. And then we also have claircognizance, which is that one I mentioned at the beginning, which is that sense of knowing. We just know, we're not sure how, but there it is, we know. And these are really powerful and also fun to play with. So I recommend that you allow yourself to have a play with these. And this is the action for today's session, is to go through the moments that you've written out, 3 to 5, combination of highs and lows, and write out at least one moment. Again, you might start really loving it and want to do more, but at least one, and add in sensory language. See if in one moment, so one little story, you can include all 5 senses plus the 6th sense. Okay, so you're going to be going overboard. It's probably going to sound ridiculous, and you probably will never actually speak like that, but it's an exercise. It's an exercise, and then we can edit back. But if there's nothing there to edit, we can't edit back. Okay, so let yourself go overboard, let it be extreme, include all 5 major senses and the 6th sense in at least one moment. And if you love it, keep going and play with a few more. Okay, so the second part of today's session is about using the emotions in your storytelling. So again, remembering that when you experience these moments, you experience them through the senses and the emotions. So in order to fully, completely, enticingly, excitingly be bringing your audience into the world of your story versus the kind of head version, right, that we tell after, which is like one step removed from the story, where we bring in all sorts of coach speak and explain what it meant to us and all that very heady language. For the purposes of this exercise, what we want to do is bypass all of that stuff and go, to the core, to the guts, to the heart. And the way we do that is with the senses and the emotions. So, in terms of the emotions, there's a beautiful quote here from Jacques Lecoq. Lecoq was the founder of the Lecoq Drama School in Paris. And then after Lecoq died, a man called Thomas Prattke took over the Lecoq School, and then he later moved to London and he set up the London International School of Performing Arts, which is where I then went and trained for 2 years in creating theatre and performance. So I am personally trained in the lineage of Jacques Lecoq. And his work, his understanding, approach to theatre, to performance, to storytelling is a very shamanic one, and a very much about our ability, our capacity to let life flow through us, be communicated through us, so that the performer on the stage becomes a vessel for experience, for stories, for life, to transmit that to the audience. So Thomas Prattke, who was the director after Jacques Lecoq, was always demanding more, right? How much more life can come through you? How much more purple can you be? How much more rage can you be? How much more water can you be? And every single day we would have to get up on the stage and be all of these elements, all of these experiences, paintings, architecture, memories, amoebas, like whatever it was all about how much can you let the energy of life in its different forms come through you and be communicated. And so what he would say is that, what Jacques would say is, whatever it is you want to say, above all, don't say it. Now, of course, if we're talking about, the entirety of a webinar or the entirety of a book or the entirety of a course, of course we actually have to say it at some points when we're teaching, when we're educating. When we're talking about story, this is where this is valid. This is where this is vital. Whatever it is you want to say, above all, don't say it. So as an example, have a think about an actor on a stage, and they're saying, I'm so angry, right? right? I'm so angry. Okay, so they're angry, right? But what if the actor says, my jaw clenched, my fists tightened, I felt like a pressure cooker neglected too long. One more snide remark from him and I knew I would explode. Okay, we can feel that, right? Because an emotion is already one step removed. It's a name, it's a word, it's language. By definition, it's cognizant, right? That we have put on a sensation that was coursing through our body. The amazing thing about emotions and humans is that they are a language that we can understand cross cultures, right? They are the language of humanity. Nobody ever jumped for sadness, right? Doesn't matter what culture they were from. Nobody ever jumped for sadness. Nobody ever curled up tight in a ball, shivering with delight. Our bodies have responses to things, to emotions, to sensations, to feelings. And when we can communicate that, we can communicate to anyone. And we can communicate the felt sense of it versus the kind of post-event, through our own understanding of the world, philosophized, academicized, we're going to go with that as a word, analyzed version of what happened. And this is how we get to show instead of telling. And it's much, much, much more powerful. And the way to get there is to ask yourself these questions. To go back to the moment, I'll take this moment just to say again, remember, if anything feels too big to write about, don't, right? You always get to choose that. So choosing a moment that does feel correct for you to write about, and going back in your memory to that moment. How does it feel in your body? And you can use the work we just did on the senses to help think about this in different ways, right? What was the temperature like? Weighty or light? And were there areas of tension or softness? Was it, feathers and cashmere, or was it hard tar? Right? What were the physical sensations? How does it feel? How did it feel in your body? And then how does it make your body want to move? This is so important in terms of being able to effectively communicate the emotion without smacking the label of the emotion on it, right? The tight fists, the clenched jaws, the jumping for joy, the curling up in a shivering ball. How did it make your body want to move? And as an extension, does it feel like anything else? So I use the example of a pressure cooker, right? A pressure cooker neglected for too long, about to explode, that seething, simmering fury about to explode. Another example of a metaphor would be, so I curled up on the floor, my knees to my chest. It felt like an airbed someone had let deflate over years of abandonment and then stomped on just to make sure there was no life left. Right? That would be much more powerful than saying, I felt deflated. You really get the whole image of just how deflated, just how defeated, just how stomped on, just to make sure there was no life left, that experience was for that imaginary person in that imaginary example, right? So go back to the moment. How does it feel in your body? How does it make your body want to move? Think about actual actions that your body might take, but also speed, tempo, right? Fast, slow. Think about the vibration of it. And then as you're doing that, check in and ask, does it feel like something else? Is there an appropriate metaphor that you can now use to extend your communication of this experience? And remembering that bodies tell stories. Bodies tell stories. Bodies experience stories, bodies remember stories, and bodies express stories. So we want to be using the language of the body, senses, emotions, as we are communicating our stories. And remembering that that's much more powerful than naming it, right? Smacking a label on it, because that's already a step removed. It's already us judging an experience and naming it and then communicating it in a very heady way, versus taking our audience back into the world of the story with us. So go back to the sensations. That's where the immediacy of the experience is. And that's how you bring your audience, whether it is a listener or a reader, whether you are speaking or writing, into the world of your story, where they want to know what happened next, which is what we always want to be going for as business owners in 2022, where attention really is currency, and we want people paying attention and then coming back for more, right? Wanting more. So here are your steps forward. Write out at least one moment again with both sensory and emotive language, okay? Put it all in one. All of those 5 senses, plus the 6th sense, plus emotions. Go overboard, let it be crazy, let it be a way of communicating that you think, I would never, ever, ever, ever do this. Once you get there, you've nailed it. And then journal on the moments that you have started to write out, okay? And what you're looking for when you're journaling is, and this is a bit more heady, this is a bit more analytical. What did you learn? And how did it grow you? Okay, because we want to be taking our audience with us in the world of our story. And we'll look at graceful segues, but then we want to be segueing into the lesson without ever saying, and this is the point of the story, because we don't want to be patronizing our audiences, right? But segueing gracefully into a lesson that we can offer, and then into, if appropriate, an invitation, a call to action. And journal on emerging themes. So for some of you, you're already beginning to see really powerful themes emerge, which is brilliant. And just keep looking, right? Keep paying attention. What are your emerging themes? In terms of your purpose in the world, in terms of your work in the world, I would say one of the best ways to find it is to do it, right? Do it, teach, give yourself a weekly teaching class that you have to turn up for, and notice what you keep talking about, right? Notice what you can't not talk about, and tell stories, and let your stories deliver your themes to you. And they will, because honestly, each of us as an individual can only really in our lifetime handle, grapple with, become an expert in, a handful maximum of powerful themes. And when we know those themes revealed to us through our stories, then we can start looking for them in a more conscious way. And then we will never, ever again be left wondering what to talk about. So journal on your emerging themes, and then remember to prioritize getting as much sleep, as much rest, and as much spaciousness as possible, knowing that the other side of writing is not writing, that your subconscious is going to be working really hard for you on your behalf while you sleep. And so prioritizing those hours as much as you can is a very wise move. Okay, so that is our training for today. I did block out for another 45 minutes, so I have that time if we have questions. And if we don't have 45 minutes of questions, then you can use the time to get going. So, does anyone have any questions? I'm just going to answer Diana's question, and then Nvidia, I'm going to come to you because yes. So Diana's written, is it then good to write in the morning after sleep? Yes, absolutely. If you possibly can have writing time in the morning, have writing time in the morning. I know parts clients on this course have said that they wake up with whole stories written. So yeah, you want to make sure that you have the best possible chance of capturing them. Also, if you don't already have morning pages as a practice, I really recommend it. I'm a bit loath to add anything on, in terms of things to do. However, as a practice, morning pages is such a good one. It's a Julia Cameron practice from The Artist's Way. And it's basically waking up, and as soon as you wake up, when you're still in that liminal space between sleep and wake, grabbing an A4 pad, or if you're in America, a letter page, or letter writing, or however you say it, and writing stream of consciousness for 3 pages. So no editing, no pausing, no gazing out the window. Whatever you're gazing out the window thinking about, that's what you should be writing down, right? And you're literally writing whatever comes. So you might be writing, why on earth am I doing this? This is a really weird exercise. Why did Kate tell me to do this? Blah, blah, blah. That's what you might literally be writing. And it's a great practice for anyone with dreams of writing, for anyone who wants to be more creative in their life, and for business owners who need to be sharing content. Because what I find now is I just write my content in my morning pages. It just comes out fully formed. It didn't at the beginning, but it does now. So it's definitely worth its weight in gold as a practice. And if you don't have that as a practice and you don't feel like picking up a new one, then just allow yourself, if you can, a little bit of writing time in the morning. Great question, Diana. Thank you. Actually, out of curiosity, who already has morning pages as a practice? Cool. Okay, about a third. Nice. Some of you from Share the Magic Inside, because it is an absolutely recommended exercise. And Diana, I absolutely do morning pages on paper, and I do all creative writing on paper. And I absolutely do my wild voice writing on paper. You can't do your wild voice writing on the laptop because you need that what am I looking for? Unimpeded flow, right, from the depths of you out onto the paper and onto the page. And so personally, and yes, it takes a bit longer, but I think it's worth it. I write everything on paper and then I type it up. And as I'm typing it up, then I edit it. So it doesn't really waste that much time because I edit as I write, as I type. Karen, I'm going to come to your question in a bit because it's a bit deeper. Lavinia, what's your question?
My question is, do we write on the low side of the valley or on the hills?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
So we choose like one of each, or?
Oh, okay, I'm with you. You mean for this exercise? Yes. So I've asked you to do it for at least one moment, so it doesn't matter. You can choose. You can choose. But I do recommend, if you have time, doing more. Right? One is the minimum. One is the absolute minimum. And then I recommend doing more. And what I am trusting will happen after you've done one is that you will want to do more because it's super fun.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question for yesterday. I was completely off and I kind of didn't work it out. So I listened to it today and it was totally the opposite of what I received yesterday. Anyway, from my wild voice and my visioning and what you're talking today and the hills, can it happen that they all go like wildly crazy and completely in the opposites, and something just crop up on yesterday's side that has nothing to do on the wild voice? So I'm kind of being in the blood of what exactly is the calling of the work that I have to do.
Yeah.
From what I started and where I am now.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so write the stories that come. Don't try to have them fit into, yes, this is a story.
No, because you were talking about similarities, things. Some of them I have, and it kind of on the hills, on the wiggles that we had to write, it came totally out of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Write the stories that come.
Okay.
Okay, don't not write a story that's coming to your awareness because you're thinking, oh, that's outside of the remit of what I got, right? What my wild voice told me, what I saw in my vision, any of that. Remember that these are all ways in, right? We're plowing the soil of the unconscious. Trust the stories that come and write them, knowing that we're still in the very beginning parts of this process. So write the stories and know that in the writing of the stories, the themes will show themselves and strengthen. Okay? Okay. That's interesting, Elizabeth. Yeah, I'm going to go to that now. My moment stories ended up spanning both sides of the line. Yeah, that's quite normal. Do I need to try again to get clear high and clearer low standalone stories? No. Often that will be the case, and that simply means that you'll have, instead of needing to put two stories together, you just already naturally have your story that already has a bit of a story arc in it. So that is absolutely fine as it is. Okay. Any other questions about this and about the action? Teresa.
Thanks, Kate. Just a quick question, because when I started the moment writing this morning, I got quite upset when I went to start one of them. Am I best just to leave that one alone, do you think? Or okay, just to try and delve in and see where it takes me?
Yeah, you're going to have to really trust yourself on this one. It depends on the level of upset, and it depends on the level of upset that you are okay with holding yourself inside of.
Okay.
So crying is beautiful and natural, and I suspect for many of you tears will come as you're writing. And if it feels like it is going to open up things that you don't have the time or the space to be processing, or you don't want to be processing right now, then yes, pause.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, because the other thing I had flipped as well, it kind of like the judgment voice was kicking in as well. So I was writing sort of about moments on the sort of positive side of the vision, and then I found myself going into space of oh well, I'm not that thing enough to other people type thing. So I felt like I'd had a lot of, say, kindness is one thing I ended up working on this morning. It might not be the thing, but it might still be that. And then I started to think, well, maybe I'm not being as kind as I like to think I have been when I've had all this kindness shown to me over the last few years. So
I see you as an incredibly kind being.
Well, thank you.
I would definitely, if I was asked to describe you in a few words, kindness would definitely be in the top 3.
Right. Okay.
Definitely. That feels really right for you. And thank you, because you bring another element which is really important in all of this, which is that there will always be more of that thing that you can be, right? That we can be. But if we're always looking to that and then judging ourselves in reaction to it, and then therefore not bringing that forward, then we're doing a disservice to ourselves and for those that actually need what we have to say on that topic now, you know, that don't need or want to hear it from someone who's got to 100% kind to self and kind to others place, right? Someone who is still grappling, someone who does still sometimes beat themselves up, someone who does know just how hard they're having to work to keep finding the positive and forming those new grooves, new stories that go towards the positive. Someone that really understands and can be kind to them in where they are now.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and this I hear and I see versions of this so much. So this really is for everyone. You know, don't let thoughts of not ready yet, or not as good as, or someone else does it better, or I'm not perfect at the thing I want to be doing for others. I actually think the inverse is true. Like, if that's the scenario you're in, perfect, because it means, oh, life is giving you the lessons, right? And that's how you get to mastery, not by having a wee journey to it.
If only. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kate.
And that can be part of the message as well, perhaps, you know, that you have learned this the hard way, and maybe it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa. Really, really great question.
Thanks.
Just going to rifle through my brain for a moment, because I think there was something else you brought up. So that, yes, there's the comparison and the not ready, and taking that as a sign that that's exactly what you're meant to be doing. Oh yeah, yes, that voice that comes in and criticizes. What ways do you already have to support yourself with that voice? Yeah. And then maybe we can get some more from the group.
I do have some, well, not sort of specific one-to-one at the moment, but I have things around me that try to remind me or prompt me. But it's a very strong voice. It has been for a long time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to think if there was anything your wild voice said yesterday that we might use in those moments.
I think there's a piece around I do go very heady. I mean, you know, I know that. Probably the place I try to deal with that by going sort of walking in nature quite a lot. So, or being in nature.
Am I allowed to share a little tiny bit of what your wild voice said yesterday in the studio class?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
So your wild voice talked about celebrating where I am, what I am, and that I'm alive here today. How does that have any impact on you as you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. So I wonder if it might support you to work with that, you know, almost like a mantra, or write it out and have it somewhere you can see it. So when that voice comes in that goes, oh, who are you? No, you're not as good as blah, no, blah. You can look up or you can look down, you know, maybe you want it on your skin or in your top drawer. And it says, I celebrate where I am, who I am, and that I am here alive today.
Yeah.
So we need something like a spanner in a wheel to pause the well-run grooves of the criticism voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, get that wheel going the other way.
Yeah, okay. I think I'll practice, get that out. Yeah, I'll do that, and hopefully it might. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that feel good enough and complete, or would you be interested in hearing other people's techniques? Because I know you are not the only one that has a voice that comes in and says, who are you to be writing about this? And you're not as good as Boo-Boo. Do you want to?
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. Great. So this is not just for Teresa, of course. This is for everyone. Does anyone have particularly good, excellent, Beth, practices for shifting out of that critical voice?
Hiya.
Hello.
Yeah, I've had a very, very strong critical voice for many years. And one of the things that I offer at the moment, and I learned how to do early on, I was very, very in my head. And I learned to place my mind in my various organs, because I work with the creative cycle in Chinese medicine, and each of the organs have particular emotions associated with them. And so just learning to place your mind and awareness in any part of the body will just shut the thinking mind off. Because instead of giving ourselves a hard time about, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that, or, oh, you know, I'm a bad person because I'm having this like these critical thoughts again, that just kind of reinforces that voice. But by deflecting it, just by sinking the mind into the body, and I guess you can learn, there are lots of ways of learning how to do that, then it deflects it, and you can't actually think so much. So it's a good tool really if you have an overactive mind in any way. So that's what I use anyway.
Beautiful, thank you, Beth. And yeah, it's a similar concept or approach to how we access the wild voice, right? By going first in and down. That's always a direction that I or Morag or one of the other wild voice facilitators will guide you, is in and down, because we want to be writing, you know, from our hips, right? From our sacral, not from neural pathways. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to share? Brilliant, Mariam and Jackie.
Mine is similar to Beth Teresa. I've had a very critical voice as well. And something that I learned is called polyvagal breathing. So it's something that it's a very simple way of breathing that immediately takes you out of your emotional brain. And all you need to do is breathe in for 5 and then breathe out for 10.
Yeah.
And just do that. And what happens is you find that you're just not there anymore. Or that voice is gone. And sometimes you even forget what it was that you were hearing. Yeah. And I find that really helps me when they come for me, you know?
Yeah. No, that's helpful. Yeah, but I think it's both of you said that it's kind of getting back into the body, isn't it? And I know actually the last probably couple of months I was doing quite a lot of swimming and walking. I have actually not been doing as much of that either. So even that side of things has probably dropped off. But it's those moments though, isn't it? Like you guys have just said, even with the breathing, it just would help in if I can't get out for a walk or if I can't get out for a swim as well. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mariam. Jackie.
Everything that everyone said was amazing. And also, I used to have a really critical mind and still do. And one of the things that I've learnt to do is to acknowledge that I have a critical mind and that it's okay. Like I don't need to get rid of that part of myself that's critical. I can love her and befriend her and allow her to allow her, but also not allow her to continue to be critical and put me down. So there's a practice of just acknowledging and noticing when that's happening. And just like, you know, what I do sometimes is that there she is again. And just, you know, like a friend, you have a critical friend that you really like, but she's a bit critical. You can still allow her, but then maybe put some boundaries around that. And the other thing is that, and something that I share and teach is that the mind makes up lots of stories, and that critical narration in our minds is just another story that is making up. Especially when it's making us feel not comfortable or not feel good. There's normally what we're being told is not reliable information.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can really take that critical mind to be us and be the truth, but it's 99% or 90% not reliable information. And we can just see it for what it is then. When we see it, we don't always see it, but when we see it, there's an invitation and opportunity to notice it and notice that it's separate from who you really are.
Yeah. Thank you, Jackie. It's a good reminder, isn't it? It's just a part. Yeah, and it's easy to think it's all of you. So, yeah, thank you.
Oh, beautiful. I love that perspective. I was like, well, I'm not sure you're actually a reliable source right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wise. Thank you for bringing that. Beautiful. And there's a couple of comments in the chat as well. And there are, you know, these themes, right, of it's about getting in the body, dancing, breathing, doing your practices that you know keep you happy, whatever they are for you, walking, wild swimming, which again include the body, and then remembering that that's not who you are, that who you are is so much bigger and deeper and wiser than that. This little voice. And yes, exactly, voice dialogue is a is a practice that I use with private clients and in Mesmerize. Teresa, I know you've done it, you know it well. And remembering the perspective that the voice dialogue work shows you, which is that underneath every voice, every single one, whether it's a critical one, criticizing ourselves, whether it's a harsh, judgy one, judging other people, whether it's one telling us that we've done this wrong or that wrong, or we didn't live up to expectations here or there, or that, or we disappointed that person. All of those voices underneath, all of them is our little one. Is our little one trying to keep us safe based on the rules that they learn and imbibe at such a teeny tiny young age. And so for them, the idea, and this is probably why this actually happens as you begin to write these stories about your vision, about your purpose, about who you are, about the work you came here to do, because for your little one, the idea of you doing that is terror-inducing. Terror-inducing. So it makes total and complete sense that in the process of writing these new stories and, spotting these new possibilities for yourself, this voice actually gets louder because it's going, uh-oh, where's she going, what's she doing, not safe, not safe. So it's also about remembering that all that part wants is for you to be safe. All it wants is for you to be safe. It's just that their idea of safety is about 30, 40, 50, 60 years out of date. And you now are a whole, complete, grown-ass human being with deep resources, wisdom, creativity, access to community, ability to ask for help, as you've just shown us, and this isn't just for you, this is for everyone. And your version of what is safe is today very, very, very different to what it was when you were 7. And so it's also, and this links back, to Jackie's, to what Jackie brought, to what a few of the others of you have brought, is knowing you have a much bigger perspective now than this small part of you. And so the other way I like to deal with this is to turn towards and say, hey, what do you need? What do you need to feel safe enough to let me take this step? Because I'm going to. But I want you to feel safe. Right? So you're not negotiating with a 7-year-old. They don't get to call the shots. But you are caring for them as you step up into more bright, bold, showing up leadership.
Thanks, Kat. Kind of, it's one of those things I feel like, I can feel myself clicking into. I feel like I should I feel like I should know this stuff before, and I know I've done voice dialogue training, so it just yeah.
This is that voice, right? This is the critical voice. I should know.
Yeah.
I should know this. So what's another perspective you could bring, a bigger, wiser part of you could bring on how much you do know, on how much you have grown, on where you are now, and on what is still there to learn?
Good question. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's trying to detach from that voice, because immediately I just, it's just going into a space of you are here, but you learn lots of things and not applied them. So the voice just, immediately goes back into that space. So So
this is such a great opportunity, Teresa. Why don't you pick one of the myriad of techniques that have just been offered on the smorgasbord. You might breathe your way in.
probably some breathing, I think. I can't.
All right, let's all breathe. Let's all breathe. So breathing, let's use the exercise Mariam brought. Mariam, do you want to lead it?
Okay, be happy to. So polyvagal breathing is really, really simple. You can do it anywhere, which is why I like it. And it's really just a simple thing of relaxing and remembering the numbers 5 and 10. So breathing in for 5 and then slowly out for 10 in a very targeted way. So to slow the breath down. And then you can do that for 2-3 minutes or for as long as it takes you to feel you're on another planet or whatever. Sometimes what you're thinking of just evaporates and it's like a reset button. So we can try that together again. So breathing in for 5 and out for 10. And in and out for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So you can go at your own pace. Should we all do it one more time? Perfect. I hope that feels good.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
that's
Mariam.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. It's funny, I wanted to come back to you, Teresa, and ask for a new perspective on the thing, but I can't even remember what the thing was. Can you remember what the thing was? It's good.
No, I can't quite remember either, to be honest.
There we go, it worked.
It did work, yes.
Wonderful. All righty. Thank you for that, Mariam. That was lovely. Yes, very calming and centering, says Erica. So I'm going to come back to the question about the wild voice. Karen, how do I know when I'm writing from my wild voice? And Morag, I'd love to hear your voice on this as well, because you've been holding the sessions for a year now. So this might sound like an odd thing to say inside of a course all about storytelling, But your wild voice is storyless. It doesn't come with stories, as in it doesn't come with trying to prove anything, or have anyone else see things from your point of view, or even understand you. There's a sense in the wild voice, in the energetics of the wild voice, that there's a clear energy. It is the purity of self-expression, not self-expression to be loved, to be seen or to be heard, but the purity of allowing life to come through you, move you, and appear in words along the paper. So there is no energy of proving, convincing, trying to be seen, trying to make a point, trying to be understood. The energy between it and another, when it lands in the ears and the hearts of another, is clear, which means it gets to be received by the receiver as pure energetic expression, and then they can pick up the bits that land for them and have no emotional or sort of energetic response to bits that they happen to not agree with, right? So it moves out of the realm of I agree, I disagree. The other thing to say about how to know when it's the wild voice or not is you probably can't yet. It's too early. And I would warn against trying to define your writing as this is the wild voice, this is not the wild voice, this is not just the wild voice, this is more than the wild voice. Any kinds of languaging like that, until you've done it ongoingly and in community where you get to hear other people's wild voices and the varying and vast qualities that are all the wild voice, for at least 6 months. At least 6 months. So yeah, they're my main two responses, in terms of the first one, it being really clear, not coming with the energy of needing to be understood or prove anything to anyone. And the second being, sorry, it's too early, you can't possibly know. It's cumulative work, and it's cumulative both in terms of getting to know the tone, the rhythm, the quality of your unique wild voice, and being in spaces where you're getting to hear others, because it is literally only by hearing someone else's wild voice again and again and again and again that you start to go, oh wow, like Maggie's wild voice sounds like a drum beat calling us to the center of the earth. You start to get to recognize other people's wild voices and the unique qualities of their specific wild voice and their specific piece of expression in the wild voice work. And that experience of hearing the uniqueness in everyone's wild voices helps you then trust the uniqueness in your own. So it has to happen over time. It's why when I train the wild voices facilitators, they have to have been doing the work for a minimum of 6 months, ideally longer. It simply is a cumulatively deepening process of hearing and recognizing, and then allowing out more, and then hearing and recognizing and allowing out more, and it grows and it strengthens. Morag, what would be your answer to that question?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Kate said, and I would add in, your wild voice always comes from a place of love. So if you start to hear malice or just that like overly critical, then you know that you've gone somewhere else. There's a different part of you that's speaking, because your wild voice doesn't know anything but love.
Now, that doesn't mean to say that it can't be very definite. And that's the other thing, your wild voice can change at different times depending on what you're talking about. Like I've had people where the wild voice, you ask a question and it might be something that the wild voice knows and you've been dealing with for a long time, and literally the wild voice will answer, just do it. End of conversation. Like it's almost like it's had a, but it's from a place of like, you're here, you're ready, just do it. I've got no more advice to give you. I'm here supporting you. And other times you can tell that it's still taking in all the data and it's taking in all the, and it goes off on tangents. But like I say, always with love, like doesn't have to make sense. Like one sentence can change from one to the next and the subject can almost feel like it's changing. But it's always light. One of the ways to check in on that is to check in with your body at any point. If you physically start to feel tight, if you start to clench your jaw, for example, you're holding your pen really tight or the pressure of the pen on the page, it's giving you a good precursor that there's another part that's trying to get their say as well, kind of thing. And sometimes you have to stop and almost have a conversation with that part and kind of say, okay, I hear you, this is freaking you out a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm just putting ink on a page. So you can chill out, I'll come back to you, kind of thing, and then breathe back in. As Kate says, there's elements of the more that you do it, you also learn where you feel your wild voice in your body. And so then when you have those moments where you suddenly go, oh, I've come all the way up into my head, my jaw is clenched, I've furrowed my brow, you can breathe yourself back down into a place that you know your wild voice tends to be. And I would say the same thing about any time it starts to feel difficult. So if you're writing and you come to a natural end and your brain starts to go, I can't think what else to write, don't write anymore. Just wait for the prompt. Like it's a very free flowing. You've got to feel a bit like you're on a river and it's just going to take you wherever it needs to go. There isn't an option to try and jump off the canoe and swim back upstream and re-edit and rejudge. So it's that really. You know it when it feels easeful and you can breathe yourself back down into it.
That's great, thank you.
Thanks, Morag. I loved hearing that. Excellent. Hazel's asked about where in the body, and there are a few very specific reasons why I don't direct that, and I let you find that for yourself. And that is all I'm going to say on that in this moment. So allow your wild voice to come from where you feel your wild voice. Mariam's asked, how often would you recommend practicing the wild voice? Every day. Every day. Probably, actually, you know what, I probably wouldn't at the beginning because it can be very deep, right? And then that depth space needs then processing time and integration time. Inside Mesmerize, we do it monthly. And I find that is a good amount to be doing it. Yeah, I think you could get to the point where you can do it weekly and then daily. For me now, there is no difference. It's not like I write my morning pages and then go and write from my wild voice. My wild voice is what comes out. When I'm teaching, when I'm introducing a topic, when I'm wanting to land a point or make a story, it's my wild voice that brings me the stories, my perspectives, what I want to be saying on the topic. Right now, I'm letting it move through me. I'm not editing. I didn't know what I was going to say. That is where, after practice and trusting, you get to. And then there's a resonance and aliveness in you because you are allowing it to come out. But that, first of all, requires months, if not years, of messaging work, knowing your themes, knowing your perspectives, knowing how to structure a talk, or a class or a course, so that you have enough stability to be standing on with your knees soft, so that you can then let life pour through you, but not go off on wild, mad tangents and forget where you were going, because you've got your points, your main themes, your core perspective, your structure to bring you home to land on, so that it's clear for your audience, but also alive. And this is the next stage, right? Beyond StoryMagic. This is Mesmerize stage. This is Rise stage. This is one-to-one work. But the more often you do it, the more familiar it will feel in your body, the more you'll trust it, and then the more you'll be more likely to be able to let it flow through you in the moment, unedited. All right, any other questions? Ellen, I'd say no at this point, because you haven't yet done the familiarizing work. So yeah, it is hard. It is hard without my facilitating or Morag to bring you down into the depths. So listen to my facilitation. There's a like very kind of low-priced Wild Voice bundle, which has got 3 Wild Voice facilitations in it, 2 from me, 1 from Morag. I think it's like £47 or something. So that's something that you could do, by yourself. And then also, as part of the training of the facilitators, we're going to have a whole day of facilitations. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but we're going to invite you all. So make sure you look out for that and come, because that will be 2 whole days of free Wild Voice facilitations. And then all of those trained Wild Voice facilitators will be going out into the world and offering Wild Voice work. So make sure you follow them and take them up when they make offers of Wild Voice experiences and classes and retreats. Okay. And it's bang on 1:30. So we will pause there. I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm going to give you a heads up. We're going to play some games. Okay, we're going to play story games around the senses, around the emotions, and then if we have time, a couple of other fun little ones. So make sure you take today's action step. Do it for at least one of the moments, if not more, so that you are as prepared as possible for some improvisation games tomorrow. Don't hear the word improvisation, get scared and not come. Okay? This is a key skill in business success. Key, possibly the key. Okay? So if you're extra scared, that's extra reason to come. All right? And it will be done with love and play, and you can't get it wrong, and there's nothing to get right. You're welcome, Monica. Both Monicas. I love the story games too. They're so fun. Okay, I will see you all tomorrow. Lots of love. Take good care. Bye for now.